GoodBye Eri is a manga by Tatsuki Fujimoto. You probably know him from his other works like Chainsaw Man, Fire Punch, and Look Back. Or you probably know him from when he dresses up as Makima on Twitter on his free time. But besides that, GoodBye Eri manga panels are drawn in a way to resemble a video recording, like the blur effect when you're moving the camera fast. Also, I don't think I do the manga justice, so I'd recommend y'all reading through y'all's legal means of wherever y'all read manga at. Support the creator, of course, right? But this is the saddest manga I've read, GoodBye Eri. It starts with the main character Yuta celebrating his 12th birthday with his parents. He gets a new phone, but his mother changes the whole mood of this party by asking her son to start recording her because she's gonna die from an illness, and she wants to leave something behind for her to be remembered. Yuta agrees to this, surprisingly, right? And begins to capture wholesome moments like a family trip to the aquarium, his mom cooking food, and the occasional stray cats walking by, and depressing moments as well, like his dad crying and recording them in their sleep just in case his mother passes away. Yuta has over 100 hours of footage of his mom. Then his father tells him, hey, your mother is in her final moments. It's time to go to the hospital, and she wants you to film her last breath. Once arriving in the hospital though, Yuta runs away and his father calling out to him, and then once ran away, it switches to third point of view where the hospital behind him explodes and him saying goodbye mom. Then it's revealed that we're watching the film, the final product of this film that Yuta put together called Dead Explosion Mother, which was being played at the talent show of some sort, and people were just shocked. They're like, wow. Yuta starts to record the people's reactions around him, and then the next group shows up and they're just mocking him, humiliating him. I'm like, wow, what did we just watch here? As well as a teacher bringing him to the side and having a conversation with them and asking, why would you make a film to humiliate your mother's death? And he's like, don't you even feel bad about this movie you made? Yuta says no, and he adds that the explosion was pretty cool. The teacher's just furious at that point. I would be too, man. Then interview style, Yuta starts asking people what they thought of the movie. Some people are saying it's ass. Well, one student, she said that her mother also passed away. She wasn't upset about the movie, but why add explosion at the end? Yuta goes home and records a 13 reasons why type of style video saying, if you're watching this, I'm not breathing no more. And people who mocked him made him do this. And if you're saying, damn, he really gonna do that because people made fun of him, he said you should do it. You should off yourself too. That he's gonna go jump off the building where his mother died. And his request for his dad is not to cry, but instead show this video to the bullies. Once reaching the top, he's interrupted by a girl and is told, hey, don't jump here, you're gonna ruin the doctor's reputations. Alright, jump at some other one because they're jerks over there. And then she realizes, hey, aren't you Yuta Ito, the guy who made that Dead Explosion Mother? He's like, yeah. And she drags him to an abandoned building and they start watching movies. Yuta's like asking her all these questions and all this stuff. She's like, wait, I'll answer your questions in 9 hours once we finish these 4 movies. Then time passes, they're watching movies until 2 a.m. Then he asks the question, why are you showing me all these videos? She's like, well, it seems like you haven't watched any movies, huh? Yuta says, only the ones on TV. She's like, nah, that's not enough, alright? If you want to make a good movie, you need to watch tons of them, alright? Yuta assumes that she has a problem with the movie too, and yeah, she has some problems with it, but she starts praising it and saying that she liked the way it blurred the lines between fact and fiction, and it was like a good puzzle to her. Also, and she said the movie was super awesome and that she was the only one crying in that gym while others used it for material for their jokes, and it got her mad. And she said, we're gonna make another movie. We're gonna start binge watching all these movies, so by next year we'll be able to shoot a movie and show it at that school festival and have everyone bawl their eyes out. Yuta likes this idea, and she says she's gonna be his manager because she watched all these movies, so she's basically a pro. She'll know what's bad and what's good. And he finally says, hey, what's your name? And she tells her name. Her name is Eri. In the next scene, Yuta is back where he originally filmed his 13 Reasons Why. But this kind of video, he starts saying that life is beautiful, bright and pure, and don't consider often yourself and throw your life away. Then the next day, Eri tells Yuta to start memorizing the movies that they watched and try to summarize them in one sentence. Then after he's done with that, he needs to break down the stories into a rising, climax, as well as a resolution. And he starts questioning it, right? And he's like, is this really gonna make me good at movies? And Eri's like, yeah, they do this in Hollywood. Don't you trust Hollywood? After school, Yuta tells Eri his answers, and I guess she's satisfied with those. She's like, well, I guess that's the best you can do. I'll accept it, but let's head to convenience store, let's get some snacks. And says that they have to watch a minimum of 3 movies every day at that abandoned warehouse. Then time passes of them watching movies every day. Then the next school day comes around. Eri says, I think you're ready to plot your next movie. And Yuta doesn't know what plot out means, so she basically says that it's an outline of the story before you write the screenplay. Yuta says, why does that have to be me? You know more about movies than I do. Then Eri says, well, it has to be you because I want to watch your movie. And then she says she's in love. Yuta's in shock. He's like, oh damn, she just confessed to me, but not in love with the movies. And that if she was going to make a movie, it wouldn't be no rematch to play at the next school festival. Then after multiple failed attempts, Yuta says he gives up. Eri just says, let's write with confidence. And he finally asks questions. So what did you like about my movie? She said that she liked the part where he ran away from the hospital, also pointing out the obvious of the whole story of how the movie progressed in a way of like a touching story, but then asking a middle school student to record his mother's death, isn't that just, kind of cruel? Also, she loved how Yuta shot his mom so beautifully, like every angle she was just perfect, and that he was the most likable character in the movie, but it wasn't even about him. Then Yuta goes home and asks his dad what comes to mind when you think of him. He's like, well, you like movies as well as explosions, because you always like to drizzle some little fantasy into each of them. Then the next scene, Yuta tells Eri his new script idea, basically the same thing that happened to him at the beginning of his mom buying him a phone. She's getting sick and she asked him to record her to her dying breath, but the protagonist couldn't bring himself to record his mother's death, so he made a crappy movie and gets bullied for it. Then he decides to off himself from a hospital roof, but he gets stopped for a mysterious girl that's a vampire. He gets taken to a building and he's thinking, oh, she's gonna suck my blood, right? But no, they watch tons of movies together instead. Then maybe the protagonist's problem isn't that he got made fun of, but he didn't get to record his mother's death and he regrets running away. Also, the vampire lived through like many years, thousands of years, and then she's gonna die from some illness, but she's afraid of being forgotten, so she asks him to shoot a movie for her. Then the main guy falls in love with the vampire, but she gets weaker and weaker, so he films her death, and their love story's over. After filming a death that he couldn't do for his mother, the protagonist regains the will to live and the confidence to make movies. The end. Eri liked the idea of the script. Yuta's just gonna reuse old footage of her, so she's gonna be the vampire, obviously. But Yuta asks Eri to go meet her dad, since they're making a movie together at least. While enjoying the meal, Yuta's dad abruptly asks Eri to stop pushing Yuta to make this movie, because he saw how hurt he got after his mother's passing. But this movie hurts him again. He thinks that he might not be able to move forward anymore. Then he says, if you create a work, then you're confident in, and others take your creation and mock it and treat it like a plaything, and messes you up, and tells Eri to leave this house. And it turns out it was a scene for the movie. Yuta's dad thanks Eri for spending time with his son. She asks for sure, is it alright for him to start making this movie? And if it's bad, we can all get hurt. Then he says the line, creation is all about getting into audiences' problems, to make them laugh and cry. It wouldn't be fair if the creators didn't get hurt too. The scene changes to a beach, and Eri explains her weaknesses to Sun isn't that big of a deal, and her weaknesses are garlic and onions. And she's about 20 years old, and that the only struggle of being a vampire is that everyone dies before you, and says to Yuta, isn't it beautiful to watch your mother over and over in that video that you made? Then within the scene, Yuta says, is there any way to repay her? And she said, yeah, let her drink the blood. Before she finishes that sentence though, she passes out. Then the scene changes to a hospital as Yuta is visiting Eri, trying to cheer her up with the video of him using the restroom, and says that he'll send her more when she gets better. But Eri stops him there, so this is the kind of thing that you don't get better from. Then Yuta said, this is still the movie, right? Then Eri reveals that she related to his mom in a way that a movie can keep you living forever. So Eri asks him to record her final breath, but playing as his character in the script. Yuta is shocked by the question and runs home. Then Yuta's dad walks in to tell him that he recorded his mother's final moment, and within that recording showed Yuta's mom in a different light, calling him useless because he didn't record her final moments. Also cut recordings is Yuta's mother telling him to hurry up to record. What are you doing? Don't you realize I can die while messing up certain scenes? Also, there's no point in filming cats, she tells him, and that are you stupid? His dad revealed that her plans were to make it into a TV documentary about her battle against the illness after she got better. Yuta's dad started apologizing because he knew what she made him do was awful, and he said it was a surprise that she was such a good mom in the movie. Yuta explains that he wanted to remember her to be beautiful. Then his dad said maybe Eri wants to be viewed the same way because he has the power to choose how people can be remembered. Yuta returns to the abandoned building to meet Eri there, and he agrees to start filming for her. From that point on, there's a nice montage of Eri. Then they're in the hospital talking about the scenes they shot, as well as Eri asking Yuta why he turned her to a vampire, because he wanted to have a pinch of fantasy, and how she first acted when they met was something a vampire would do, he thinks. And also, if a vampire sucks him dry and kills him, he'll believe it will be beautiful because it will become a substance for someone. Then Yuta asks Eri, what movie did you want me to make again? And she's like, the one I told you from the beginning, a movie that'll make them bawl their eyes out, saying this whilst dying. Then in POV style, a girl shows up and asks Yuta, didn't Eri wear glasses and have a retainer and all this stuff? But he said that she wanted to take them off for the recording, and isn't she self-absorbed and had a temper? Like, yeah, that's why me and you were her only friends. And saying one in the movie was a bit over idolized, but that's how she'll always remember her. The ending of the movie, the protagonist was able to film a death that he couldn't do for his mother and regain the confidence to make more movies. In a view of a monologue, after the school festival, he felt like something was missing, so he kept on recutting the Goodbye Eri video, though through college, even after his part-time jobs. But he'll eventually get married and have a kid, then start focusing less time on the recuts of the movie. But one day, while the whole family was in the car, he was driving and they got in a car accident. He wakes up in the hospital and he was told that he's the only one that survived. Then in the video, he says he cannot handle any more deaths in his life, so he'll die at the place that holds memories for him. He'll go back to the warehouse. While walking through the warehouse and reaching for his bag, he hears a voice and says that this world is full of death, It was Eri sitting on the couch. Yuta is in shock and is trying to explain by saying it's a hallucination or he's dreaming. But Eri says that your explanations is missing a pinch of fantasy. He's like, well, I made you into a vampire in the movie. And she's like, well, I am really a vampire, and that's why I'm here talking to you. And explained that she only died up here, pointing to her brain. She says the human brain can only hold so much memories before killing them. Eri before her says as long as her heart's intact, she'll never die. Now she'll just be revived 3 days later, but her memories were gone. And explains that Eri left her a note explaining the situation of her starting her life over and over again. This time was different because she had a video of a kind person she was. Then Yuta says, doesn't watching all your friends and family die, doesn't that bring you despair? She's like, well, because of this movie, every time I watch it, I'll remember you again and again. Says, isn't that beautiful? Then she says, well, I don't like talking during movies, so you can sit here and watch the movie or you can leave. He decides to leave, saying goodbye. Then walking away, he thinks of why he kept recutting the movie, because it was missing a pinch of fantasy.
Nate Goyard.